Namaskar, friends. It's Jayashrii with the Finding Freedom podcast. And once again, we have a question this week. It is, we all know ego is after a manifestation of thoughts. So, how to see life without any ego? Because human himself is an ego, right? How can the ego escape itself from the grasp of ego and view life? Thank you very much for this very insightful question. The mind cannot transcend itself, which is immediately where I go with this. So, I'm a non-dualist. And the reason being is that, honestly, I was kind of born that way. I came into this world seeing everything as one and knowing that I wasn't a separate self, and also observing that most humans did see themselves as separate from everyone else and took themselves very seriously as to their names and their labels and their roles. And I found this interesting from a very non-judgmental. Let's even say that I didn't understand what judgment was at that point. So it was just an observation. And I've recounted this in a previous podcast, which was knowing that I wasn't what my parents thought I was, a separate self. Knowing that I wasn't, my birth name is Julianne, my yogic name is Jayashrii. But knowing that I wasn't Julianne, that was just a name, a label that I'd been given, or that had been given to this form, this apparent form. And so I asked myself one day, then who am I? Who am I? I asked it a few times, and poof, everything disappeared, including the world and this seemingly separate self called Julianne. It all just disintegrated. The illusion burst. And there was only what we call Nonduality. And so this was at around age 4 or 5. And this is about when the ego starts to develop. And my ego did develop from there. And so how can the ego escape itself from the grasp of ego and view life? It can't. It just can't. And that would be the answer to this question, to keep it really short and sweet. Excuse me. And so then the question is also, so how to see life without any ego? Because the human himself is an ego, right? Yes, that is correct. So how to see life without any ego? We are life. So we don't see life. We are life. And, it's that great question. What is it that sees? What is it that hears? Who is it that thinks? Where do these thoughts come from? It's all life. And the appearance of form, the appearance of this world, the world is in the mind. In an instant, depending on our consciousness, it can all dissolve right now. And everything, all the problems, all the challenges, all our attachments, they all disappear with it. It is truly a play of Maya that we're experiencing. It's a dream. And with a certain level of looking, we can actually see through it. And it's not, language is limited, so there is no one to see through it, but there's the experience of the illusion dropping away and being very, very, very clear that we are not a separate self, that ego is part of the illusion. So it's actually the most incredible realization. The self-inquiry, self-realization is the most incredible freedom that there is, because, as I said, the illusion of all of our problems go away with the understanding that this is all impermanent and it doesn't need to be taken so seriously or personally. Now, of course, the next question is always, well, that's great. But if I lose my job and I'm kicked out of my home and I'm out on the street in the freezing cold with not enough clothes and no food, I don't really care if this is all an illusion, because it's going to be really uncomfortable and I'm not going to be happy. And that's a great point. However, it's a great question because from a place of ego identification, things are much more challenging, because we're actually unplugging ourselves from the source, from God, from the divine, and we're trying to do it all ourselves in this little box called me, and everything is a lot harder. There are lots of problems and, quote, challenges, and we sabotage things and we're unconscious when we know that we are life, and life is perfect. It is the divine expressing itself. When we get out of our own way, we're actually less likely to lose our job and get kicked out of our home and be out on the street. And if we're also enlightened and we know who we are, truly, we won't care. So it's this very interesting circle. It won't happen, and yet if it did happen, we wouldn't care. With self-realization and with enlightenment comes an incredible amount of freedom and access to our full potential. As you know, yogis will sit in the snowy peaks of the Himalayas and they're just fine. So they understand how to regulate the body temperature, and they don't need to eat much. And they don't even have they don't own anything, because it's all actually baggage. So this is truly freedom. And it does require stepping completely out of the matrix of duality. You can't be half in, half out if you want to end suffering and experience nirvana. Meditation is the last attachment, and it's something that I'm dedicated to doing twice daily. It's a panacea for everything. It purifies the system, balances the chakras. It's a magical process that the great sages of India, it's a science, an inner engineering that the great sages of India understood. And, this temple Our bodies are the finest instruments there that exist, and they're incredible. If we take care of them properly. And meditation is one of those techniques. We really do open up to the full potential, and we need a lot less, and we achieve our highest potential within that temple to experience the unknowable mystery to its fullest. So I hope that this was helpful. And yes, thoughts, the other part of this question or this topic included the statement, we all know that ego is after manifestation of thoughts. So yeah, thoughts are ego. Thoughts are always past and future. The mind is thought. The mind is ego. Transcending the mind is freedom. And so getting out of the head, out of the ego, and letting go, surrendering, that's our true nature. We are nothing but presence, which is everything. We are the magical, unknowable mystery that pervades all. In its full perfection. Let me know what your thoughts are. Share in the comments below. Please feel free to give this a like and share it with your friends. Feel free to subscribe if you would like to see more content like this, and hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. And don't forget to share a topic or question that you'd like to have addressed in a future podcast. I send you love, light, and presence, and I wish you a beautiful day. Namaskar.